Hi, welcome back to another amazing episode of Spit or Swallow with your favorite host, Hausa Chocolate. Yay! Today is an amazing day as per usual, and with me, I have a very special guest. I've been chasing her for so long.
Oh gosh.
But thank God the queen, I mean, it works with your title, Olori. You know, we have been chasing the queen, and the queen has decided to grace us with her presence on the pod today. Welcome, yesterday, Olori
Thank you,
Coitus.
Adiva.
Thank,
Thank you, House of Chocolate. It's great to be here.
thank
You
you
were
so
not
much for coming
chasing me.
on. I was chasing you.
I really was. We actually scheduled a couple of times,
We
but it
did, we
was
did.
more
I mean, to be honest,
my
the throat thing as well. I
yes.
actually had 2 weeks off in December where my throat was
It
gone
was
too.
it was
So
actually really
there was
terrible. And
definitely
then like
something
with
going
my
around
with my day job, the times that this filming is happening is right in the
in the
middle of
middle. Yeah,
work.
yeah.
And some of us we have day job, we have side gigs, and
If not for the economy, we won't have to be doing one
if
million
not,
things. But
have you met anybody under like 40, anybody under 50 that is doing just one thing?
no, no, no. I mean, as well, people that are sitting in their offices collecting fat paychecks,
Well, those maybe
they're
them,
doing
but
they're
some
doing
some of
well.
them even with their fat paychecks are still doing one or two
One or two
PPs on the
things.
side.
I mean, it's
If one
necessary.
if one something just comes up, kind sharp sharp.
Yes, it makes
It's a
sense. Makes
Nigerian
sense.
way.
I mean, exhausting, but
It is.
and these are the issues that contribute to people not having enough sex. But let's not,
They're too tired.
let's
They're too
not,
busy. Sex is at the bottom of their to-do
it
list.
is at the bottom of that to do this. So I'm going to allow you to introduce yourself, and all the things that you do. Speaking about you being multifaceted, share with
um,
the. I know you're pulling up your profile.
I'm about to because she's
She's
like,
like, let me
introduce
dictate.
yourself. I'm like,
Introduce yourself.
um, my name is Yesterday.
Mhm.
Yesterday Olaika Agbola. I am a public health expert, a sex educator, um, well, I guess sexual health and reproductive health
Reproductive rights.
educator,
Mhm.
um, women's right, period educator, all that good stuff. I'm also a jewelry designer. I have a actually wearing a t-shirt today.
Yeah, I can see you're
Ilekedi is
repping your
my
brand.
baby, my jewelry brand. We make waist beads and all kinds of other jewelry, anklets, and all that. What do I? So that's kind of what I do. What else do you want to know?
I mean, that's a good enough intro,
Hey,
but
thank you.
I'll start piecing them apart one by one. So, how did you get into sex education?
So if we go back in the day, I was the friend that you had in secondary school that knew everything
Mm,
about sex,
mm,
and it really started from me reading this book called Every Woman when I
mm.
was like 9. It was my mom's book, so I picked it up from like a bookcase. I used to read all kinds of books. Yeah, I was reading like Jackie Collins and Sidney Sheldon and Daniel Steele at like 9.
Mm,
So this book it's called Every Woman, and it's a gynecological guide to life. So it had
yeah.
like very factual. It was written by gynecologists in the
Mm,
UK, and it had like very factual information about everything from periods to sex to menopause to childbirth, like literally like diagrams that were not PG, like showing you the full bush and everything, which was
mhm,
really great because you actually got to because I'd never seen it before
mhm.
except mine. But you're not taking a mirror at 9 years old
Yeah,
to see yours.
looking.
So it really gave me like a lot of information. Read about tampons. I remember my mom telling me as a kid that tampon was for married
Adults.
women.
Oh,
No,
married
not
women.
adults. Specifically, married
And
women.
some people still believe that
Yes, so I realized, with hindsight, I realized that
it
the
was a
reason she said that
penetration
it was
fear.
more of married women have had sex.
Hmm.
And so married women can then insert a tampon.
Yeah.
But every woman told me that anybody can put
Hmm.
a tampon in and a tampon would not disvirgin you. So
Hmm.
when my friends in secondary school were making fun of someone that wanted to use a tampon, like, oh my God, it's going to disvirgin you. I was like, no, it won't. Because this is what the doctor said.
Yeah.
So I had a lot of that information, and I think that was the beginning of the curiosity.
Yeah.
By the time I got to university, I went to the University of Florida,
Hmm.
and we had this. I love organizations on campus, and one of the ones I was very involved in is called Gatorwell.
Hmm.
And we used to distribute condoms on campus. We used to talk to students about like sexual wellness, go to clubs, like we'll hang out outside bars and like be giving out condoms. Like, look, we're going
Mm.
to hook up, or
Yeah. Do
do
it
it with a condom.
safely.
Encourage
Hmm.
students to go into the health centers to go for testing for
Hmm.
STIs and things like that. So that kind of sparked it,
Hmm.
and then I started working at the health department in the minority HIV and STI program
Hmm.
in Florida as well. And a big part of I worked with like a really amazing boss, a mentor who really, instead of just like, the disease control model, which is like
Yeah.
stop
Abstinence.
abstinence and
Mm-hmm.
use condoms, and we're trying to prevent STI. So
Yeah.
obviously we're coming from a disease control model, but she made it really fun.
Yeah.
She will go to campuses, talk to students, talk to people in the community with like really fun ways to like,
Educate them.
educate them and also keep yourself healthy. And
Mm.
things like one time she brought a female sex worker in who taught people how to put on a condom without their hands. Yes, girl. It's
Ooh.
a skill I was taught. And I teach it like when
Okay.
I do like bridal shower events and
Yeah.
women's groups and
Watch me
stuff.
stealing that. Okay.
So when I do bridal shower events and women's group and stuff, it's one of the things I like to teach
That's your
because
party trick.
it's a party trick.
Mm-hmm.
It's a really fantastic party trick. I won't lie, because
Mm-hmm.
you put it it's you put it in your mouth and you kind of
Yeah.
put it in your mouth the right way. If you put the condom in your mouth the right way, you can actually put it on.
Put it on
So
again.
obviously, like for young people who would not want to use condoms, now you find that out, you're gonna want to, because you're like, you know what? Let me show you this thing that I just learned.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So things like that. So from there on, when I moved back to Nigeria years later, I just always wanted to find a way to kind of educate more, but it was tough.
Mm.
It is tough.
It is tough.
So
It
I
is
just thought
tough.
so I thought of starting a page. So I was working in public health. I still work in public health in my day job. I work for a government agency that controls HIV.
Mm.
But I wanted to find a way. I needed an outlet, essentially. I was seeing that like a lot of my friends, a lot of young people had questions about sex and had nowhere to ask the questions. So I now thought, Instagram was just starting off. This was like 2012. And I thought, let me start this page. It'll be an anonymous page. Like ask Alice.
Mm-hmm.
So University of Columbia University has I don't know if they still have it, but back in the day they had this page online. It was like a website. You would send an email to Ask Alice and you would ask anything about sex, relationships, and naiads, and then there'll be a response. So like an
Yeah.
agony aunt.
Auntie.
So I thought,
Yeah.
okay, let me do a Nigerian version. It would be called and I was big into like Yoruba mythology then. So I thought
Mm.
Orisha, Orisha, you go to the Orisha to
And so
ask
like
to the
an
deity,
oracle.
to
Mm-hmm.
oracle, to be like, oh, tell me about this. So
This.
obviously,
Mm-hmm.
you
Get
get
answers. Yeah.
the correlation and then
Mm-hmm.
coitus, Latin word for sex. So
Yeah.
it was called Orisha Coitus.
Ooh. Okay.
And so the page started. I told my friends, and a few people followed, but people were afraid to follow.
Mm.
Just to follow, not to ask questions, but to follow the page. Why? Back in the day, Instagram used to be a snitch. If you followed, if I followed Hausa Chocolate, it would tell everyone that followed Olori Coitus that
So person.
That followed Olori Coitus that Olori Coitus is now following Hausa Chocolate.
Yeah.
If you make a post and I like it, when you go to the
Oh
like,
yeah,
you
the
know, you used to have that heart
interactions
button, that
page.
interactions
Yeah,
page.
the interactions page was such a snitch.
Girl,
That thing,
if I liked your post, it would tell everybody. If I
that thing caused
commented,
drama
so
in
somebody comments,
relationships.
so
Yeah.
if you comment on my page, you just see someone coming there and saying, "What are you doing here?" Then I
Mm-hmm.
was like, "You, so what are you doing here? How did you
How did
find
you
out?"
see it? Yeah.
So it made people really weary about like following. So the engagement was super low. So it was a bit discouraging. But I would still get called to come and speak sometimes at school. Like if somebody found out that, oh, you work as a sex educator, because I did get my certification.
Mm-hmm.
When I did my master's in public health, I also
Yeah.
did
You
a
did
certification in
sex
sexual health.
education. Mm-hmm.
So people would say, "Oh, come, come speak to us, come speak to my, my church group, come talk to my women's group and things like that."
Yeah.
But then the Instagram one was just the internet thing was just very demoralizing because people
Mm-hmm.
say, I see your page, but I can't follow you. So I used to start and stop. But then in like 2017, something happened. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to take this seriously because I saw that there were a lot of people online now that were making a lot of noise, and people listen to whoever makes the most noise.
Exactly. And then they know way less than
Wrong.
you, wrong. They're
And the
passing off
information, oh
wrong
my goodness, somebody was talking
information.
about how
Mm-hmm.
like kids, it was one guy that I used to follow then. And there was this whole thing about how like kids eating Indomie is the reason why they're starting their periods early. And so he was now, no, it wasn't just even that. He was literally bashing the moms. That was the one
For
that's just
giving their kids Indomie.
look. Honestly, moms don't give their kids Indomie.
No, MSG.
The MSG is too
It's
bad.
bad.
Give them, find other noodles. I'm a mom, and trust me, it's really tough. But I don't give my children instant noodles, and because of that, I have stopped eating instant noodles. I stopped.
Mm.
No, but no shade to Indomie. It's quite yummy, but it's bad for you. Can we say that?
Yeah,
Is it
you
okay to say
can.
that? No.
Yeah, I
Okay.
mean,
All
they should
right.
not
Just
come.
no, no. I'm just thinking like
They
we're
shouldn't
going to be
come for us.
publishing. They
Sha.
shouldn't come for us. So I'm like, but it's not just Indomie now. There are all these other brands,
Anytime
ramen, right?
I
Instant
think
noodles.
about Indomie, I think about Ozzy's tweet about how one pack of Indomie is equals to 29 cans of Coke in terms of the sodium
The
content.
sodium
It actually put
content.
me off Indomie for like 6 months, but I went back.
Okay, so I went off, came back,
So
went off, came
yeah,
back.
that's me. Sha.
But
I'm
for the
always on and off.
past,
I try not to do too
this is the
much.
longest I've been off it, like 3 years. Yeah.
Wow,
When I was pregnant with my
amazing.
girl, when I was pregnant with my twins, there was something about the taste of like MSG. I was like super sensitive to it, and
Mm-hmm.
even like things made me
Not sure.
like Maggie and stuff. Like it just the taste was off to me, and it would
Mm.
stay on my tongue for like a long time. So I just kind of
You just
stopped
went
eating
off.
it,
Yeah,
and then I've been able to stay off it.
stay
And like I
away.
said, I don't want my kids to eat it, so I
Makes
kind of have
sense.
to lead by example.
Mm-hmm.
So, but this guy was going on and on and on about how like it started from girls starting their periods early too. Why wouldn't they start their periods early when their mothers are so lazy? Their
They're
mothers
cooking
don't are
Indomie.
just giving them instant noodles all the time to eat. And yes, that's why their periods start early because the sodium inside is great. I said, Uncle, stop, stop, stop. If you were saying that that are in the artificial hormones that are in the diets of today is what is causing kids to start their periods early, we can have a conversation because research has shown that that is true. But you can't bash parents. Like it was just so I went on my personal page then. I just went on and I was just and then I realized that wait, hold on. I have a platform. Why am I not using this platform to actually disseminate proper
Information.
information
Yeah.
while and of course this person had a lot of engagement then and all that, and I started taking Olori Coitus, so Orisha Coitus seriously,
Yeah.
and then I was like, could I don't realize that what that whole Orisha is very you don't see
Yeah.
the Orisha. There's a
Mm-hmm.
lot of mystery involved in
Mm-hmm.
it.
Mm-hmm.
Perhaps people will be more would
Resonate more
approach
or approach a.
perhaps it would be more approachable
Mm-hmm.
if it was someone that you could see.
Mm-hmm.
So it used to be an anonymous page. So
Mm-hmm.
I now put my face to it to humanize
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
And obviously with that, you can't be an Orisha if you're humanized. So it
Mm-hmm.
changed to Olori. Olori being the
Yeah.
Yoruba word for queen. So it then became
I
Olori
wonder if some people
Coitus.
would have been pushed back because of the Orisha name itself. Because
Our
Nigerians will now come and film in the mighty name of Jesus.
over
I'm
religiosity.
not going to talk to any
The white
Orisha
man
and all
did
of that
the
stuff.
white man did a terrible, terrible thing to us, and we've allowed them just take our culture. These are
Yeah.
beautiful wonder. Do you know the Orishas? There's Oshun. Oshun is like the god of, not just motherhood, but even if you think about like what is the Orisha that is closest for like sexuality and
Eroticism,
eroticism
sensuality.
is
It's
Oshun,
always Oshun, yeah, for
and then
sure.
even closer if
And
you
you
think
know
about
what's so funny is you
Yemoja,
find that it is Black Americans
the
and white
Caribbeans,
people.
Brazilians,
Those
the
are the ones who
Cubans.
actually tap into
They're
our
tapping
own
into it.
culture.
I said, if you see the way like they worship like the Orishas in Brazil, like the Santeria. It is deep, it is beautiful. Um, I'm a Christian. I love Jesus, but man, our culture is so rich. Meanwhile, the same white people that said we should not worship our Orishas anymore, or we should not even mess with them at all, they will bring out movies on Thor. On Thor, is that not like the god of thunder,
Thunder,
the god of war?
yeah.
Marvel, all those Marvel Avengers, what are they? They're all those their deities and their gods that have been changed into like cool things. And all of us are taking our money and
I'm
paying
paying.
to watch.
But
Our children are
If
watching
they do Shango movie, we're
Avenger.
not gonna go and watch
They're
it.
not gonna come and
We're
watch
not
it.
gonna go and watch
Meanwhile,
it.
these are our own superheroes because they were human beings and I mean, I don't know. It's just really tough. But yeah, so that's how
The
the
trajectory and
trajectory
how
came
you.
in, and then
Mhm.
since then I've taken it super seriously, registered as a business, so proper sex education even in schools, in communities, period education, women's rights, advocacy, all the
Yeah,
all the
all the
things
good
that
stuff.
kind of come with
So
that.
let's just get into sex education, especially in Nigeria. How have you been able to navigate, like, just the attitudes, what have you had to tweak? So obviously, you had your American training and your American upbringing, and even my sex therapy school is an American school. So I know that dealing with Nigerians and Nigerian clients is a whole different ballgame, because here you're fighting the shame, you're
Yeah.
fighting religion, you're fighting, community and the culture, and even just sexism. Oh, my husband, this, my husband, that. So how have you been able to reach, how have you been able to tap into people to have them actually listen to you? What has your experience been like in terms of pushback, for instance? For me, I find that when people say, oh, how do you deal with this? I find that when people realize talk about sex, they're always actually open and looking for you, because so many people are dealing with these issues. So there isn't really as much imagined pushback as you would see. But tell me what your experience is like.
I like when you say that because again, look at Nigeria's population. We didn't get here by chance.
Mm-hmm.
We got here by a lot of people having a lot of sex.
Yeah.
But in terms of pushback, yes, when people find out that like, oh, you're a sex educator, you're a sex therapist, their first thing is, oh my god, are you serious? Sometimes they have this idea. I think now it's a little better. About 10 years ago, people had this idea that if you said you're a sex therapist, they'll say, oh, okay, so will you come and stay with me and watch us have sex and then
And then,
give us
yeah, and give us
pointers
pointers
and
and
things like
all.
that? Will you be with us in the bedroom? And it's like, no, no,
No.
no.
Although you do find there's some people
There
who,
are.
but
There are. But when you think about the ethics of it,
of course,
that is
yes,
not what it's about.
yeah,
It's
for
to
sure.
help you attain. I put it like this. I say, when you go to your doctor or when you go to a regular therapist, your regular therapist does not come into your day to
Daily
day
life to
life
observe
to
you.
observe
Mm-hmm.
you and then give you pointers. You come and you tell your therapist what is going on,
Mm-hmm.
and then they can objectively and with the skill set they have say, oh,
This could
this,
be.
why have you tried this?
Mm-hmm.
Try
And give you
these
homework.
tools,
Mm-hmm.
give you homework, and that's essentially what in
Yeah.
terms of one-on-one sex ed and sex therapy. Now when it comes to like pushback, the most pushback I've experienced has been in schools.
Mm.
um I and it's paining me because I'm trying to get back into this school thing. This young people thing keeps pulling me,
Mm-hmm.
but the breakfast I have chopped
Mm.
from schools
Yeah.
and like young people's has been the hardest.
Mm.
I remember once, and most of the time you'd be on your own. No? They'll come and reach out to you. Somebody from the school, somebody from a school, a really popular big school in Lagos, reached out and wanted us to come and do sex ed workshops with their. It was a secondary school, so they were looking at like JSS 2, 3, all the way to SS2,
Mm-hmm.
and it was going to be obviously age appropriate. So
Yeah.
you wouldn't put them all together. Each year group will
Yeah.
be separate
Yeah.
because they are dealing with separate things.
Yeah.
But the parents,
Of course, I was gonna say it's the
so
parents that
the
will say no.
educators understand. They get it. They're like, okay, okay, but madam, you cannot say this and that. Fine. But the parents, it was a whole thing. The whole PTA was an uproar. Parents pulled out their kids. So we had said it was going to be like club time. So parents pulled out their kids when they were informed that there will be a sex educator coming to teach their kids about sex. A lot of parents said, oh, don't worry, I'll do it by myself. I
Mm-hmm.
don't know the things you're going to talk to my kids about. And then even the ones that agreed, the school PTA then had us sign an agreement saying that you would not use certain words.
Don't
Like, guess which word? Number one word.
vagina.
Sex. The
Sex.
first word, sex. How do you come and teach
Sex
about
education
sex?
without talking about
Oh, you can't
sex.
use the word
So you
sex.
now say
Intercourse. Um,
copulation.
in fact, the first reaction is, there's
Don't
no
bother.
point.
Yeah.
But then when you think about it for the greater
Yeah.
good,
Now
these
like,
kids
okay,
need
let me
it, all that good
find.
stuff. Okay,
Mhm.
fine. And then second thing was we had to divide the boys and girls. I don't believe that.
My
That's if
gosh.
anywhere where they teach sex education now, for the most part in Nigeria, they divide the boys and girls a lot of times.
That's
Right?
crazy.
Girls go to one room
So
and boys
girls
go to
girls
one
do
room.
menstruation and boys do what?
Yes, and then guess
Ejaculation.
what happens? Boys don't know anything about
About
menstruation
periods.
and
Mm-hmm.
periods. So
Mm-hmm.
when they have a sister, a coworker, a girlfriend, a wife who is having cramps or who's saying this, I mean, I saw a video, I remember a few years ago, that the guy did not realize that where the blood came out of,
Mm-hmm.
they don't know. They don't realize. They're like, oh, you have more than one hole? Yes, we do. That pee comes out of another. Even there are a lot of women that don't know that
No, for
pee
sure.
comes out of a
Of it.
separate
No,
hole
that one
that
is that
blood
one is
comes
a
out
lot
of.
of people actually think that pee comes out of the vagina.
So isn't it crazy then? So first of all, they said we'll separate them, all that.
Mm.
Sha agreed. And then this friend of mine that had brought me on the project, because it was actually a friend of mine that was reached out to, and then she brought me on. She used to work in Nigeria, and now she's moved out. I'm sure it's just part
Yeah,
of the frustrations.
this country.
Oh please, we have to stay. Who's going to help the country if we
Ah,
don't? But
okay.
anyway, that's another topic. So we then go. Somebody, a group of us took the girls, and
Uh-huh.
a group of us took the boys. We started with Jesus one, and then we started talking. What do you know? Because the easiest thing is
How do you
first
even say
ask.
what do you know about? What do you know about
No, you say, what do you know that happen? How do babies? You always ask the question, where do
where do
babies
babies
come
come
from?
from?
What do you know about where babies come from? Because the
Mm-hmm.
first thing you need to do is first of all understand like where their knowledge
Yeah,
level is.
is
And then you get to them at their own
level.
level. After asking all the questions and talking to them, start going round and around the circles and all of that, you talk to girls more about menstruation. I also like to talk to boys about menstruation. Like I said,
Mm-hmm.
talk to girls about what is
Definitely.
even happening about boys' bodies. So you're
Yeah,
understanding each
both
other.
sides. Yeah.
I always and pass a box around where you drop your anonymous questions. So write your questions and then drop it. By the time we examined the questions that these kids had, they were way above the
Mm-hmm.
levels. All the parents I was talking about, oh, I'm going to sex educate my kids. The kids were already learning. Kids were asking us about like positions and things they had seen in porn. Kids were asking that, oh, my friend was watching this cartoon sex hentai.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't want to watch it. Oh, my uncle was making me watch. My uncle brought something and showed me for me to watch on this. Oh, some of the boys were talking about how like some older women in their lives, their nannies and aunties, are touching them
Here we go. Of
inappropriately,
course, I knew
and
assaults will come in.
of and their parents think that they are the most innocent. Sometimes your child, who you have control over, is, but they go to school and they're interacting with children whose parents have no parental controls on the phones. These children are
Mm-hmm.
getting phones at a super early age.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes these kids are literally just watching like a very appropriate thing, and then there's a pop up,
Mm-hmm.
and then there's an ad, and then they're seeing things. In a day, I think they say any child, even a child that's 0 years, will be exposed to sex or sexual content about 10 times in a day. So if you're not having that conversation with your children, if you're waiting to have the big talk, you're going to have a problem.
Mm-hmm.
So the pushback, so it was very glaring. Of course, we took this information back to the PTA, and parents like, oh no, oh my god, that's your problem. Obviously we're not invited back. Don't worry,
Yeah.
we didn't even want to come back again
I mean,
because it
fair
was
enough.
a really,
Did you
really.
answer the kids'
Yes,
questions
we did. I mean, as much as
to the best to
to the best that
your
we
you
can.
could? Yeah.
Also remember that these are anonymous questions, so you can't ask follow-up
Mm-hmm.
questions. That would
Yeah.
require the person revealing themselves.
Yeah.
So you just try to talk about it general, like,
In the
look,
general
your
ones.
body, when you talk about body autonomy, and if somebody
Mm-hmm.
is touching you inappropriately, showing you things that
Mm-hmm.
are inappropriate, because I think a lot of times parents and adults focus on children being touched inappropriately.
Yeah.
you know, Good touch versus bad
Bad
touch, or
touch.
what is
Yeah.
okay and what is not okay touch.
Mm-hmm.
We don't talk a lot. There's a lot of grooming that
Mm-hmm.
happens.
Mm-hmm.
Grooming is actually, we should be more afraid
In
of
this
grooming,
country, that Nigeria that is
because
filled with pedophiles,
a
please.
lot of children now, if you ask a lot of young children, will say, no, don't touch me there. Pastor
Mm-hmm.
Namte Odukoya, God bless her soul, wrote a beautiful book about, don't touch me there, and, my body and all that. But we've not focused enough about the grooming that comes from literally sitting a child down and making
Making
them
them watch
watch
stuff. Mm-hmm.
inappropriate content.
Yeah.
That is like one of the easiest way. Or tell the child to touch themselves, or
Mm-hmm.
telling them to touch. So we're thinking penetration, but there's a lot that goes on
Before then.
before you get to that point.
Mm-hmm.
So we really need to. And a lot of parents are like, oh no, not in my house. Oh, it's other people's children. It's not my children.
Before
So that pushback has been, but we're seeing more of it. Lately I've been getting school, like when I meet someone and I say, oh, this is what I do. I also, provide like age appropriate sex education even in schools. I've had a few like heads of schools say, please come and talk to us in our schools, and I'm always like, before
you have
you
to do it
invite me,
yourself. Let me
before you
tell you.
invite
Yeah.
me,
Let's
let me
have a
tell you
pre.
what the problems you're going to encounter.
Yeah.
So please go and fight your PTA and go and get your parents on board before
before
you
you,
bring me in.
yeah,
So yes,
yeah,
but I definitely want to do more of that, and then universities and things like that.
yeah.
I'm
That
going to be pulling you into some projects that are happening this year.
Oh
Just be ready.
yeah, that's something I've definitely been thinking about. But the thing about the sex space is because there's not a lot of us here, you also have to narrow your focus sometimes. If not, you be running around like a headless chicken. Just like you said, you can do HIV stuff, you can
Hmm.
do sex education stuff, you can do intimacy stuff, you almost have to learn about everything because you have people coming at you from, and it's not, we don't have enough colleagues
Resources.
and resources to say, you know what, okay, this is more for someone who deals with older populations, talk to this person. So
Yeah,
you have to go back and do
I
the
too.
research and then come and cater to the people
So we
that you
have,
want to.
but we have quite a community of sexuality and sex
No,
educators in
educators, yeah,
Nigeria
no, for
now.
educators, yes. For
And
therapists, not so
but
much.
therapist, I see what you're saying about therapists. I tell people I'm not a sex therapist. I have a life coaching. I'm like a sex coach
Yeah.
almost, and I tend to I've been moving away from
Shine
that
from coaching.
coaching more and more, and not so much because it's a bad thing, but more because my I feel like where my strength lies and where my passion
It's more in
is
general education.
more in the education space.
Yeah.
Um, in terms of not just even like sex, intimacy, and also even period. So like a
Yeah.
big push for me this year is a lot of period
Period
education,
education.
talking to women's health
Mm-hmm.
issues.
Mm-hmm.
And so when people come to me now for therapy, I refer them to people that I know that are licensed therapists,
Therapist.
not licensed sex therapists,
Yeah.
even not just somebody that is selling something online that now goes and
Goes
does a
and
call
so
and starts
a
calling
30
themselves a
day
therapist
course.
because
Yeah.
people have been asking them for
Questions
questions, and
and
now
they'll
all of
be
a sudden
answering.
they're telling
Mm-hmm.
me they're therapists,
Yeah. So
but it's just a way for them
exactly.
to sell sex toys or for them to sell,
Exactly,
whatever products they're
exactly.
doing.
And that's why I always tell people like most of even when I was searching for sex therapists, you find that a lot of people are either regular therapists that maybe do like a short course. That one is even kind of better.
Because they're
But
just
but
specializing.
sex therapy training is actually like the one I'm doing is 2 years. Like it's actually really deep and
Mm-hmm,
comprehensive. It's like
mm-hmm.
doing a whole other degree. And
Where are you
then
doing it with?
it's called Institute of Sexuality Education and Enlightenment in Arizona. And then you have, like you said, all those ones that are just selling kaya mata. They say they're a sex therapist, they're selling this and that. But because the knowledge gap is so wide, they're answering people and you see people sending them all their live comments. I do this, I do that. When I went on the DSTV program, the Baby and Tools of Issue,
Mm-hmm,
people came in my DMs like, "Hi, please, do you do blowjob class? Do you
mm-hmm.
do da, da, da?" I mean, the other person does, and I said, "Please, this the other person that was with the other guest,
Okay.
she does
Who
those
was
kind
who
of
was with you?
she's called Sex Talk with Soul
Oh,
Spice."
that's my babe, Hannah.
Yeah, so she does those kind of. I'm like, I'm not offering those
Those
at the
are
moment. I don't know if
services.
I'll ever, even if I do, it wouldn't be. So when I do like women's workshops and stuff, those kind of things in intimate settings, I wouldn't be like, "Oh, yeah, everybody been 20 K for the blood and it's now my mouth." On it, but that's
I
not
know.
really my speed and stuff.
I know what
Yeah,
you mean because I have
yeah,
that
yeah. So
that I tell people
exactly,
that even when I do like women's groups and workshops and bridal showers and things, it gets to a point where I'm like, turn off your cameras. Turn off your cameras.
because it's not,
This
yeah,
is not going on the internet. You will
exactly.
not have me,
Me
ACJ,
chopping banana
chopping banana. Like
for everybody to see
I'm so
because
sorry.
there's a line, and that's the thing
It's not even
about
so much. Do you think it's even so much as the line, or it will easily before you know it, you are on what's some of this Insta
so
blog
mine
and
isn't even for the line in terms of what we do, because at the end of the day, sex is, it is messy, it is all of that stuff. It is more of how people now brand and position
and
you.
that's
Do
what
you
I'm
understand?
saying.
Yeah. So
Like before
yeah.
you know, you're on Insta blog, you're on
Next,
Linda KG
mm-hmm.
and all, and then there are all these comments,
And then next thing
and
you
then
say
next
yes.
thing you know, and next thing you've been turned into a meme.
Mm-hmm. No, I'm
I'm
screaming.
sorry, that it's one of my big. I just
I'm
like
actually
it's like
screaming. No, valid
as fearless
concern.
as I am.
Valid concern.
I'm also like an upstanding member of
Yeah,
society.
yeah.
I
Mindful of your
have,
image.
I'm very, very mindful of my image.
Yeah.
I'm also, so I told the line. Yes, I can teach you, like I told you about that party trick that,
Yeah.
that I have. I'll teach it to you, but not on camera.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
if you, sometimes, of course, some people will, post like maybe, especially bridal showers, people are always super excited and they're
Yeah.
like, oh my gosh, she's teaching this. And then you're taping me without me knowing.
Yeah.
First of all, that's why I go with my assistant now. Before I used to go alone. Now with my assistant, we go to
Be watching, be
watch them,
putting
please.
half
Excuse
eye.
me, ma, please. Can
Mhm.
you stop this? Can you turn on?
Mhm.
And if you post it, best believe I'm going to report it
Mhm.
and they're going to take it down because we're not going to play that. It's very, and that's why it's even been tough for me to like to
Do more
put out
workshops.
workshops
Mm.
because it's that like
Yeah,
push
so
and
yeah,
pull
it
between.
really is because like and that's the thing about being in the sex space. And the thing is, you can have the purest content and people still come. I just one of the videos came out and I was seeing the comments and somebody was saying, and that's something I've seen men say a lot because when I give my experience and I say, oh, my partners or my rotation or this or that, someone say, yes, sex education is good. This is good for adults, but why are you letting people know that you have different partners? You shouldn't. And someone even said, if you communicated with your partner, you will not feel the need to come out and be communicating other people about
Oh,
sex.
wow.
I was like,
Oh,
okay, thanks for the
I've
information.
I get it. I get it. And things like that are why on Olori Coitus I don't share personal experiences. You're not, maybe if again in close settings, I share my personal experiences, but you're very, very not likely gonna see me on Olori Coitus talking about like, oh, I did this with my husband or this partner that I had this or something. And it's all because of this. Me, oh, those things get to me.
Oh, fair enough.
I don't want like I'm just not I don't have the bandwidth
To
to
deal with
deal
Nigerians
with
and their madness. Me, I'm
Nigerians, their
always
madness.
ready.
I know that's Nigerians.
I'm
It's
always
just
ready. Come.
and and maybe it's I asked God to like release me from this bondage. But I'm still like I remember when I moved back and I told my parents that I used to have a big bowl of condoms. When I moved back, I had like a small mini apartment in my parents' house.
Yeah,
And I had a big bowl of condoms on my coffee table because
yeah.
when I was in college, I used to have a bowl of condoms because again, I worked with Gator
Education,
Well.
yeah.
And I would have a big bowl of condoms, all kinds of condoms.
Hmm.
Even till now, if you want some, I have friends that still send me condoms. And my mom was like, you know,
This is sending a message
you
that
are
you're
not
having sex.
not even just that.
Or what?
Why don't you wait till you're married to be doing all these things that you're doing? Even if you find someone that wants to marry you, when the family hears that you're doing all these things, how would they feel? And I'm like, they will feel the way they feel, no, ne? And it is what it is. But I think while I'm like, I don't care, at the back of my mind, I'm still like,
Yeah, you care, you care, you
I
care.
do care
No, but it's
a little.
understandable because at the
So
end of the day, we are human beings, right? And this is also something that I've come to realize actually matters to a lot of people. Because somebody was even saying, "Oh, that you can't not blame some men for feeling some type of way because what if they marry me, then um they have kids, then the children at school now pull up content that I'm
so
doing
that's
and
that
saying."
that is what I'm very
Do you
afraid
get?
of because I
And
have kids.
saying
I have kids
exactly
in
and saying,
school.
"Oh yeah, your mother is doing spit or swallow." Da, 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 da. And for me, I feel like I personally I don't give a fuck because these are conversations that need to be had. And my own approach to sex and sex conversations is they're just as normal as have talking about food, talking about digestion, talking about all of that stuff.
Mhm.
And if nobody does, everybody keeps having this. Oh, but it's sex. Let's cover it like this. Let's do it like that. But obviously, there's also
But do
the.
you also think that there is a sorry to cut you off, but do you
Mhm.
think that for some of these things there's a time and space for it? Because that's where so the where I where I stand, I mean the line that I straddle is I'm with you on these are important conversations to have. The same way you are eating, the same way you are drinking, the same way we watch all these cooking videos is
Mhm.
how we should be able to watch videos showing us or talking to us about sex.
Yeah.
But because sex is such a
Wide or broad
not even so much
field.
wide and broad, but it has to now do, the reason society codifies it so much and tries to shroud it is because it requires human bodies, naked bodies,
Yeah.
and there's a quote unquote sacredness.
Yeah.
Because it's like that, I feel like you should definitely learn about it, but I am more of the let's learn about it in controlled settings. Because in this day and age where everything is content,
Mm-hmm.
everything is can be taken and used for things that in far far reaching areas.
Mm-hmm.
Um so mm, we have to kind of be careful. Even friends that I know that do like workshops
Mm-hmm.
with like it's always like in closed settings. You have people when people come in, they're not posting necessarily on say Instagram and Facebook.
Yeah.
They have a course.
Mm-hmm.
You take the course. You can't the course is not recorded.
Yeah.
So while they're teaching you these things,
Mm-hmm.
they are kind of in control of the image of themselves that is, because especially most of us are women. I feel
Mm-hmm.
like if we were men and doing these things, there'll
Yeah,
be less of
nobody
a
will care.
problem.
So that's the thing. I I feel like that controlled set. Of course, yes, in certain ways you should have certain things in control settings because, like you said, even with sex education, it should be age appropriate. If I'm doing a TD sucking workshop, it should not be accessible to a 15-year-old or a
But
exactly.
but if it's
And
cut and pasted on Instagram or
Ex-
Facebook or Twitter,
exactly.
will it not be
So
accessible?
I understand what you mean about control, but I find that a lot of it is also because of people, like you said, wanting to protect the image that is projected on us. Because at the end of the day, people say, this one just doing sex, share, da, da, da.
Mm.
Everybody now share one. But yes, you also
Everybody not
exist in a
sure.
society where your image is important and you
Mm-hmm.
also want people to take you seriously. But I think that sometimes we allow those loud voices, like it's about looking at the impact of what you're doing. Yes, certain things should definitely be in controlled spaces, but also realizing that with or without you doing what you're doing, the internet is still going and going and going. Kids are already
Agreed.
accessing. So why shouldn't there be the right content
Mm-hmm.
in that volume, in that speed? And that's why obviously there are community guidelines for
Yes,
Instagram. There are certain things that they will
exactly.
not allow. We don't
You
Instagram does not
cannot
allow nudity and all of that stuff.
you
So even
cannot
if
show
you
you cannot even show
yeah,
you
you can't show nipples, they'll
you
take it down.
you can't show
So
nipples,
yes,
you can't show even
for
as a picture, not even as a picture, even as a diagram that is like anatomy. In fact, there was a point where I started doing something where I put for educational, I'll put a asterisk on my on the video that says for educational purposes
purposes
only.
only.
So that way,
They won't
please,
take it
oh,
down.
I've
Explain.
explained though. I'm just explaining it so that people, and that's why I don't go into like technique.
Mm-hmm.
You will not see me really talking more about technique on
On
social media.
yeah,
We can do it in other spaces.
yeah,
And
for sure.
I kind of told the I don't know if I'm sure you've heard of the village auntie, Angelica
Mm.
Lindsay Ali.
No, I don't know.
Sorry, you don't know the village auntie. She's our auntie.
She is.
She's our
I'll
auntie.
go look for
Angelica
her.
Lindsay Ali. She's an African American sex educator.
Mm-hmm.
Um she has a lot of ties to like Africa. I think her husband is from Ghana or Senegal, is African. And she is also like a Muslim. She's the first Muslim sex educator I had ever come across.
Yeah.
And she does a lot of workshops, works a lot with women, especially, and but a lot of the work that she does is in closed settings.
Mm-hmm.
So if you go on her Instagram page, yeah, you see her, you know that she's a sex educator. She talks about in broad terms.
Mm-hmm.
But when you go, like I've taken her workshops, when you go to her workshop, she is everything, no holds
Yeah.
barred. You're getting it
Yeah.
all.
Yeah.
But it's in a closed setting.
Yeah.
And that was the first time I remember seeing one of her workshops. And I said, okay, you know what? This is actually more my
Your speed.
style
Yeah.
and
Your
more my
style.
speed.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody is,
No, everyone is
everyone
different.
is different. And and different people need certain things because
Mm-hmm.
someone who is like super explicit and is like
Yeah.
no hold barred. I mean, I don't know if you've seen like the Tiomi Morgans.
Yes. Yes. What's her name?
I
The
don't know.
Glamazon or something.
Thank you,
Yes.
Glamazon. She would appeal to a certain audience.
Yeah.
But there's a section of society who I remember even when I, became public about, oh, this is what I do, like I'm a sex educator. I had new people that would walk up and say, you're normal. You're like me. You're like us. Like you're quote unquote what Nigerians would call like a proper babe.
Mm-hmm.
How are you able to talk about sex with a straight face? No giggling.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and I'm like, because it is
Is
a
a
normal
normal
part of
thing.
life, like
Yeah.
you would.
Mm-hmm.
But my approach has helped open up
Certain type of
certain
people.
types of
For
people.
sure. For sure.
Um, and then there are people who are even like super ultra religious and come from that angle. Someone like
Mm-hmm.
Angelica Lindsay Ali, the village
Mm-hmm.
auntie,
Mm-hmm.
she appeals to like a very modest crowd
Yeah.
who would then be able to follow her
Yeah.
publicly and then
Yeah.
come to her workshops and get like the more explicit information. But that opens the door
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to like pushing certain people away because we're trying.
Yeah.
What are we trying to do?
Yeah. Trying to
Give
be
the
inclusive. Yeah.
information and be
Yeah.
as inclusive as
No,
possible.
definitely, I definitely agree, and I feel like there's definitely space for everyone and everybody's, style. It's just extra navigating what your branding looks like because, like you said, even as you've kept your personal life out of it, you're not descriptive. You're not somebody who like see what's her name. There's this other sex therapist, is it Olaomi or something?
Allow me. She's my
Yes,
babe.
So she as well, but she's more the kind that will do technique,
She
that will
did.
do
She's.
all of
I tell
those
her she's my
ones.
sensei.
She,
If you want technique,
she would do all of
allow
that. So
me.
me, I'm someone who I can describe things in an explicit manner. In the when I do like women's circles and stuff, of course we can go all out. Like you said, in those areas you ensure that one is a trusted circle, it's age appropriate as well. You're not having kids and all of that stuff. But me, no matter how deep in this sex field or sex therapy or whatever offerings I do, I'm never going to be thrusting my hips on Instagram, riding
Uh,
an imaginary dildo. I'm never. That's not going to be me. But there are so many women who do that. I know this. I met this baby who does like, a lot of people do all this sacral healing and stuff. So they do all this twerking. They do all this. Oh, I do. Dick riding classes, da 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 da. It's
Yeah,
not
yeah, they're
me.
talking
Like,
about that.
or me, I'm already someone who people already sexualize. So it's their dream to see me
Like,
riding one
please.
imaginary dildo on the internet. I'm
Yes.
not gonna do that. But I find that I'm definitely somewhere. I'm definitely more through towards the explicit side,
hmm
but I'm not descriptive in terms of
So there are people who that like your speed is exactly what
what
they're
they need.
looking for,
Yeah.
and yet there are some people who like, please sis, show us everything,
Mm-hmm.
and they need that more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So to each their own, and that's why we need.
More
I always
people
say
in
that
this
there are not
space.
enough people
Yes.
in the space, and we
Mm-hmm.
need men. Oh goodness, we need men.
even
All the people we
even
have
in my
mentioned, all the
classes,
people we've mentioned are
even in
women.
my classes, in the sex therapy classes, there was a time where there were 30 of us. There were some live classes that had educators and therapists together, and there was only one man, and the man was coming to because he was trying to understand himself and his
Mm.
own experiences with intimacy and all of that stuff. And it's actually true that you find that there are more women in these spaces and not men, because men are just like, you know
I know
they
it
just
all.
don't. Yeah.
And the funny thing is, you would get approached. I mean, I feel like my audience
It's
is
balanced in terms of
pretty.
the
I mean,
mix.
yes. Well, if you look at like say social media stats, it's
Mm-hmm.
more women than men.
Mm-hmm.
But in terms of people who approach me, it's almost like a 65-35. No, that math is not mathing.
No, 65 is too heavy.
No. Like
Like
a
60-40.
60-40 split of
So
women
women
60
60 and
and
then
men
men 40.
40.
Yeah.
That 40% is still a big number of
Mm-hmm.
people asking questions, of people
Yeah.
wanting help, of because again, these women are not having sex by themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So somebody needs to reach them. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes when I have workshops, women say, well, you're talking to us. You actually need to be talking to our men.
Mm-hmm.
So who's talking to the men?
Those are the
Women are
challenges.
quick to gather in groups, workshops.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I promise you that sometimes I've had events where it's just a bunch of female friends that are like, you know what, Friday night, let's do something different as opposed to
Yeah.
going out. I know this therapist, so what if she comes and talks to us? And then we have a women's gathering. There are no men there.
Mm-hmm.
But men don't do that. Men are not sitting down talking about, oh, this is what I'm experiencing.
How can we make
How can I make it
our wives
better? How
orgasm
can I
better?
make my wife
Because with
orgasm
each other, they're
more?
there talking about
How
how they blew her back out and she couldn't stand up the
and
next
how
day.
I give it to her every day, sometimes 3 times a day. But really, they're also having problems with erectile dysfunction.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes
Libido
even men have
issues.
issues with desire.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they might feel like, oh, they are more responsive as opposed to
Yes.
being spontaneous.
Yeah.
And they might feel a bit of shame about it that,
Yeah, because
society
we
says
keep
that
over sexualizing and acting like men are the ones who want sex
they're
more.
the
I think,
lion.
you
Rah.
know.
And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and so men that don't have that and are on the opposite end of that spectrum feel some type of way about it, but they have no outlet to really, really
Mm-hmm.
talk about it. So we need men. This is a shout out. I mean, what do you call it? Like a call
Yes.
for
Call
more
to action,
men. Call to
please.
action.
We are begging
We need
men.
more men to come into the sexual health, sex education, sex therapy space because it also shifts the perspective. When I'm a woman, I can only tell you what I know educationally, but in
Yeah.
terms of experience, I don't know what it's like to be a man in a relationship.
Yeah.
I don't know what it's like for as a man when I want to ejaculate and I'm telling the man, yes, you're dealing with um you're maybe okay, you're dealing with like premature ejaculation. And I'm saying, oh, you just do your Kegel and you just
You
pause
clench and
back,
you
you
squeeze.
clench and you
Yeah.
squeeze. And he's just like, sis, go for jam. But I'm saying it
Based on what I've learned
what
and
I've
not from
learned
lived experience.
not from
And
lived
I find that that's
experiences.
why, you know, male gynecologists can be a little out of touch with reality sometimes. because those ones just bring, you can tell when someone just giving you his textbook. Oh, okay, happy serious. Yeah, take this pill. Take
But
one.
you know that there are more male gynecologists than female.
That is also such an interesting
It's because there are
and
more male doctors,
doctors fair sharp,
and it's
and there
just
are more
sad.
males in
And
STEM.
also, obstetrics and gynecology is one field of medicine that is very, you can't predict, very unpredictable time wise. Your hours are unpredictable. You can be sitting down in your house with your family, and next thing, your patient's about to have a baby, and
Yeah.
you're rushing to the hospital and all
Hmm.
that. So a lot of women shy from it because they also want to, you know, have time for their families and
Hmm.
things like that. So
Yeah.
you would tend to have more men
But it
in
stresses
those
me because I
spaces.
always say if I could go back, I would actually go back, be a doctor, specialize in women's health. Because you find that when you're in this sex space, even if you're interested in, or you're focusing on intimacy, sex education, you find that something keeps pulling you back to women's health because
So
so much of it
is
stems
women's
from
health.
there.
So for
Yeah.
me, right, I actually wanted to be an OBGYN.
Mm.
I wanted to be an OBGYN because of women's health. Like I said,
Yeah.
I've had this pull basically my whole life.
Yeah.
But then when I was pre-med in undergrad, I was pre-med and I picked like a random major just to fulfill all the prereqs to go to medical
Yeah.
school. But around my third year was when I started to realize that my interest in health and women's health was not from a clinical aspect.
Yeah.
I
It was
always
more
just
of
thought
the
I would be an
social
OBGYN.
aspects.
Yes,
Yeah.
it was more from a social aspect, from a public health aspect.
Yeah.
That was when I started to discover public health. And I realized that, oh, what I actually want to do is more geared towards public health and not
Yeah.
clinical medicine.
Yeah.
The reason why I say this is there are a lot of OBGYNs and doctors who later on discover that, oh, public health is actually more their speed. And
Mm.
then they are pulling away from clinical medicine
And they're
and
moving to
moving
those
into
spaces,
the public
NGOs,
health,
all that type of
you
stuff.
know, space. So really, I feel like don't wish you had gone into what I'm trying to say is don't wish you had been an OBGYN. Women's health will pull you. Go like focus into it. The way you're taking this course on sexual health and all that, you can, do more in terms of women's health and speak to women's, pain points. It's a fantastic that's what I'm doing
Mm.
now
Yeah.
because again, like I said, the period health and
Yeah.
period poverty
Even
and
speaking
all of
on
that.
periods, it's so funny because I our stories are similar in certain ways in terms of always reading. When I was young, I used to read a lot of stuff. I used to read a lot of medical books for fun. And even when I think about my own experience with sex education, I remember the first time I ever saw sex in a book, I was 7. And it was a dreams book. And they were talking about if a man and a woman, or a man and a girl, or a boy and a woman are having sex, something is bad. And I
In
remember,
the dream.
yeah, in the dream. And I
Was
remember,
this a Nigerian book?
of course, I'm sure it was like a pastor that wrote the book. And I remember asking my auntie, I was like, what is having sex? Because for me, I was thinking having, like, consuming. I was trying to just use my child brain to
Oh.
understand what it meant. And she was like, it's not for children. And I just left it. And then obviously, I guess, with age, with reading other books and stuff. And I mean, even from when I was like 10, 11, I was already reading those fat, adult novels where they would, I think my own um proper, like, explicit, if you may, um exposure to sexual activity was like Meals and Bones, because they say, oh, he's
Yes,
member, he's
remember
this, he's that,
they
her
did they
breast.
did
It was all
and she was
descriptive and
heaving
erotic
and
and
her
all of that
breath
stuff,
was and her
you
breath
know.
cut when she cut her, oh
And then all of
god,
them, they just lie to
those
us that they'll
things
say, oh,
lied.
he felt one sharp pain, and then after it was
The
an explosion of
bliss.
pleasure.
There was no they say, oh, and she just got wrapped into it. She just felt a twinge.
Just into it, they're just like,
So
boom.
you when you're about to have sex for the first time and it's like fire
Do you get? They just tell
in
you, oh,
your
it's
vagina, you're
desire,
like
So I
you're
always
wondering why
say,
am I not like the girls
do
in
you
the
understand?
ladies in the
My
news?
own,
What's
I've
wrong with
always
my
been
body?
a La La Landy, passion. My even with my approach to sex, it was always special person, special time, fireworks, all of that stuff. And then when I think of like secondary school, I know we did like reproduction, so they did. I remember the teacher saying there was. I think we revisited it in JS3, and she was like, "Oh, we're talking about sex." She said, "If you laugh, you're getting flogged." So everybody has to be like, because obviously, when they say sex
Mm,
and everything, people want to giggle and all of that
giggle.
stuff.
Mm-hmm.
If you like, you're finished if you giggle. So even then, it was like, we had at least we did, menstruation together. They did ejaculation and baby forming. And then I remember even the always people. So that was also something that used to help when always would come and then they give you.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
nice. What school did you go to?
so they would, it was called Antel International School. So they would go and they would come and do like the description and say da 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 da. And I remember like everybody having like pads and stuff, and everybody would now have the pad hold, praying for like their periods
Period
to
to come.
come and everything. And then they also had all these HIV outreach guys that would come as well, and those ones too
They tried
used
for
to
you people in your school. Oh.
do like, so most of the time I feel like a lot of education came from like external people. So the same thing, club hours, they'll
Mm-hmm.
come, they'll talk about HIV, but obviously that one was a lot of abstinence based. Then use condoms,
Disease
how to use
control.
condoms, control, but it was still better than nothing.
Nothing. True.
Obviously nobody spoke about like changes in your body, about feelings and all. So what I noticed was that it's okay, it's allowed. What I noticed was that um in Nigeria, what they would do is they take out, like you said, how parents would want to remove sex.
Mm-hmm.
They want to remove any inkling of
Pleasure.
pleasure. Are
Because
you wanting to do it?
you
They're
should
just
not
giving,
be
yeah.
enjoying it. And
They're
it's that
just telling
fear
you the
of
science of it.
if you discover that this thing is sweet, that this thing is pleasurable, then you want
That
to
you
do
want to
it.
do it. And
Meanwhile, we're trying to keep you from doing it. So what how do they straddle that? That's why they tell you no.
yeah,
They remove
they
anything.
remove anything. And I mean, understandable, because people have that fear. I think that
Yeah, but is it really?
no,
Because it
not
takes away,
no
because when we become
understand no
adults,
understandable in terms of I can see the fear from parents, but not rights. And I
because when
don't
we
think,
become
yeah,
adults now, I am dealing with a lot of women
who are afraid of
who
pleasure.
are afraid of pleasure, who don't even know how to even, when I'm like, oh, pleasure is your birthright, pleasure is yours, take it, all that. They're just looking at me like, Olori, I beg. Pleasure in what exactly? Because everything they have sucked, Nigeria has also sucked out.
Well,
Nigerian parenting has sucked out the pleasure in it. When you're a kid and you're eating and you lick your spoon, they say, stop it. Why are you licking your spoon like that? Any little thing that did you notice? I don't know.
no,
I think it might
maybe,
be a generational.
yeah, maybe not in my, maybe not in my
No,
home. But to be
uh,
honest, I don't always like to use my own
no,
upbringing, because
no.
what I find is my own
Generally,
upbringing and the general upbringing, they're
very
two
different.
totally different
True,
worlds
true.
entirely. But I think that in Nigeria itself, even in the world, sometimes like the world's very erotophobic. We can romanticize suffering, but pleasure, like people always want to draw a line. And when I always ask people about the lines of pleasure, you find that is where their moral compass can carry them.
Yep.
People feel guilty when they're doing it. I mean, look at us and black people, and even naps. Can you nap in the afternoon?
I do
That was like,
with no
that
zero,
was
but
one.
I feel like the reason I can is because my mom used to nap.
No,
My
napping
mom,
was illegal in my
are you
house.
serious?
Nap
No, I
was
mean
not.
Monday to Friday you be at work and stuff, so that was not. But on weekends, oh, my mom would say Sunday. She tells the gates man, we are not
And so,
home.
mhm.
And back in the day, people were not calling before they came to your house, so they would just, we're not at home. And she would, after lunch on Sunday, everybody go and sleep. Saturdays, sleep. So, but I understand what you mean about naps, and even like when you think about, I have a lot of like married. Imagine they say don't have sex until you're married. Don't have sex until you're married.
And then all of a sudden you go
Now
and have sex.
you have this legal right to
Hmm.
have sex, and they think that by you just having a wedding and
What
signing the
I keep
papers,
That's exactly what I
you
say.
now all
You
of a
eat
sudden
jollof rice,
the
you dance, you
flood
sign
games,
papers, and
yes, all
then
of a
all your
sudden
neurons just change like
all the
magic.
conditioning that, and another thing about women especially is that we have been socially conditioned to delay gratification.
Hmm.
Think about like so many things that you would like to do, and they say, no, no, not yet. Don't worry. When you are,
There's
so
time, there's
there's
time, there's time,
time,
there's
there's
time, there's
time, and
time.
like as a woman, because you're the one, you don't want to get pregnant, you don't want to get an STD. If you do, if you start having sex, you're the one who's going to suffer most of the social consequences and even
Hmm.
the health consequences.
Yeah.
So by the time you get to a place where you are now legal, even if you were having sex before you were married,
Hmm.
it was like the illicitness of the hiding, or the
Hmm. The
this is
thrill
not
of
the
the
of this thing we're not
secrets,
supposed to
yeah.
do. Now you have it to do.
Then they've turned it to your duty.
You know. So now all of a sudden it's gone from this thing that
You're
You've
doing
been looking
because you
forward to do,
enjoy
and now
to
you're doing it because
keep your home because it's the duty of a good woman.
you don't want him to be looking outside. Because if you're not
Hmm.
having sex, because they won't talk to you about sex, but the one time they're going to talk to you about sex for you marriage,
Anytime your husband asks for it, you should be
open up,
ready. You should be ready, and that's
open up
why
is your duty.
marital rape is also a thing.
It's
So
big. People, do you know there are a lot of people that tell you that will still argue with you? I did a post about that a while ago. That people argue that
there's
a
nothing
man
like it.
cannot rape his wife, and I'm like, excuse me.
It's that ownership and property mentality that they have. And it's just like, are you actually insane? And that's why I say Nigerians always, when we go back to basics and we argue about consent and we talk about consent,
Hmm.
people will consistently reject your definition of consent because if they accept it, they will accept that they've been violating people. They have to accept and deal with the fact that
Yes.
they have been rapists, they have been abusers, all of that stuff. And even women too, because
Uh-uh.
they will also have to accept that, wow,
They
they also violated me.
or
There's
I even do you know even women violate men. But I think we lot when we talk about
yeah, we that's actually
that
really true.
women we usually when we talk about consent we talk in terms of women,
Women.
but there
Hmm.
are women I've come across and I've worked with women who will tell that how can he say no? Is he
No, I
not a
mean
man?
there was a time
What does
when
it mean that
there
like
was a time, there was a time
I'm
when
just going to remove my clothes
that
and
was
get on top of me
actually,
and you're like
yeah,
I'm
that was
sorry?
actually standard stuff. And I actually speak to men as well. Like women actually rape men. And
Yes.
you find people who will share their story with you and they'll say, I woke up and she was on top of me and I felt some type of way.
But I
But I just
just
didn't because I didn't want her to feel this thing. But maybe
yeah,
some had a conversation with them after and some just chested it, but they know in their hearts that
they were not
that thing
okay with it.
affected them. They know they actually felt violated. Like,
Sometimes even if they're not necessarily like emotionally affected like that, but it's just somebody took away your ability to say yes or
oh
no.
no. Mm-hmm.
And it's not okay. And sometimes even when you've said yes, right? Part of consent when you talk about fries,
Yeah,
right, is
enthusiastic,
re
yes. Mm-hmm.
no, you can take it back.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, I said yes to kissing. I said yes to you even penetrating me or me penetrating you. But now I don't want to anymore. It's
Now you
reversible.
stop.
I
Yeah.
can reverse it
Mm-hmm.
and I can stop. But then it's like, what do you mean? We're already so far. This is where I want to stop. For whatever reason, I'm not comfortable going further than this. So I just don't feel like it anymore.
Yeah.
And it's okay. Why are you being such a tease? I'm not being a tease. And then, it's that fear of, we're already here. Let me just.
Mm-hmm. And that's why I always say you can stop. This thing I've argued with men. I'm like, even if you are just about to ejaculate, if she's not doing it again, come out. There's no point of no return. I mean, that one there's been a whole debate even in the sex space. I'm like, at whatever point it is, if the other person says I don't want again, enough. It's not by force. You can't force somebody to.
Because really, why are you
How do you even feel
experiencing pleasure? How
comfortable
do you feel good
knowing that the
knowing
other
that
party was not
you
interested?
so point
Like,
of
don't
no
use someone
return,
as
you
a
want to
sex toy.
come, pull out and use your hand now.
Exactly. Continue with your hand. It's not that hard.
After all, women,
I mean, with
men will
this,
come,
then they
roll
continue.
over, and leave the woman to her own devices. Or, like I tell men, when you come and she hasn't come, God gave you 10 fingers,
Give you mouth, give
give
you
you mouth.
tongue.
So many tools that you can use to
Hmm.
also help her come if it, if she wants to. But
Yeah,
yeah, it's
yeah.
actually quite crazy.
I mean, honestly, we can go on and on and on when it comes to this topic. But yeah, I did ask you, spit or swallow.
Swallow.
Okay, thank you so much for coming on. Sex tip of the week.
Ooh.
Yes. What do you want to tell? What do you want to tell your fans, your listeners? What do you call your Olori Coitus
You know
cruise?
what's so
Coitusas.
interesting? I've been off the socials for a while. So I just came back to Instagram this past weekend and I had my first live in months. And so I was asking, I was like, what do we even call ourselves? What do we call our lives? And somebody said, oh, we'll call it the Olori Coitus. We'll call it town hall meeting. So now my
Mm,
lives will be called town hall
town hall
meeting. Because I was like,
meeting.
you guys are like my people, my village people. But Nigerians don't like the term village people
Village.
because they say
The
village people, your
connotations
village
is
people
raz,
are not even
local.
razzle. When they say your village
Oh,
people are
village
after
was by
you,
your
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 enemies.
enemies.
So then
I'm screaming.
but they're
Don't kill me.
but as Olori now,
Your tribe
as
in
queen,
quotes.
my tribe, my community people, my townspeople. So I don't know what
Your
I call them.
coitosas.
Courtesans. I'm not sure. I'm not sure how palatable that is for the general public. But sex tip of the week.
Mm-hmm.
use lube. Use lube.
Don't use
Don't be
spits.
shy about using lube. We're on the
Actually, use
Spit or
spits.
Swallow podcast. Please don't use spit. Spit is not enough. It will dry. Buy the lube. Use the lube.
Mama, lube is expensive now. Ah,
Yes, but guess
lube
what you can
costs.
use? But guess what you can use? Coconut oil.
Yeah, I heard.
Food
I
grade
heard.
coconut oil. No, I didn't say oil.
I heard.
Yeah, coconut oil can be good, but just don't use oil and
And the
condom, and
condoms,
especially
yeah.
latex condoms. Latex
Yeah.
and oil,
Yeah,
the
tear.
condom will burst. The
You
thing you're
don't
trying
put
to
coconut oil in my own vagina shower.
don't put
But
what?
I said don't put coconut oil in
Why
my own
are you
vagina.
allergic?
Yeah, I'm quite sensitive, so there are certain things
No,
that you know.
but do you eat coconut oil?
Mm-mm,
You don't.
you don't eat
Okay,
it.
so if you don't, then if you cannot, ingest it,
Ingest
then
it.
don't put
And
it.
I feel like honestly, I feel like sometimes the way the vagina is, depending on what your flora is saying, anything
Yeah,
can throw it off.
sometimes
So
sometimes
you
you can
try
be a
it
bit,
and it's
which
cool.
is why for the most part I say this. People always say, oh, why something natural, something natural. So I always say coconut oil,
Coconut oil.
but I always say that honestly, like buy the ones that are made in factories, and I say that just
Yeah, because those ones that
because
have more allergen
they have
tests, they have
and they've been tried and
standardized,
all that.
all of that stuff.
There's one that I've discovered made in Nigeria. It's
Mm.
from Clean Peach Co. It's called Nectar, Peach Nectar. It's Odagon. It's very cute. Shout out to Precious
I'm gonna test it.
of
I'm
Clean
gonna
Peach
try
Co.
it.
Yeah, yeah.
If anything happens to my bum bum, I'm coming for you. I'm
No,
joking.
no. Do you know the reason I'm saying you could try it is because
Yeah.
I'm also super sensitive
Mm.
and I haven't had
Had
any
any
like
reactions to it.
I definitely don't use most water based 99%
Yeah.
of water based lubricants I don't because
Mhm.
glycerin and
Mm.
I'm sensitive to the glycerin.
Yeah.
It like feels like it's burning.
Burning.
So I don't I typically would use like a silicone
Based
based
one.
lube or oil based lube.
Okay.
So yeah, try it out
All right.
and see. And then we also have the ones that are infused with other things.
One or two things.
Yeah.
The tingles or the
No, not those kind of
the ones
tingles.
that make
Have you heard of
you
CBD?
like CBD.
CBD
Yeah, that's what I was
lube.
gonna say.
Yeah,
Yeah.
make you like. "It's not for me."
I was going to say that people say it promotes blood flow to that area.
Have you
but
tried it?
I haven't.
Okay.
Some I know people that swear by it. I've had one in my from one of these popular brands in my wish list for a long time, but I always keep
Okay,
forgetting.
so I feel like I know that brand that
Yeah.
you bought. Is that an American brand?
Yes,
I
it's
bought
not
it.
good,
It's not that it's not good.
but it's not matching the reviews that you're seeing.
The reviews were so amazing. It didn't work for me.
So
I was you know how like they said 20 minutes before I was waiting.
somebody said for the men that should just put a drop on his cap.
But
before
they say
condom
that
out.
like men. I also read that like men shouldn't use it
It's
because
because numbness or what?
it like premature.
Oh yeah, because it's too sensitive.
Yeah, but like for women, so like the receiving partner should put it on,
Put
and
it
then
on.
like he will get the loop sensation. It didn't really work for me that one, but I have been told to try like to try to do it by yourself. So
Okay.
with like food grade coconut oil and
Okay. We'll get to
we'll
the
see.
lab and
We'll
cook.
go. I was
Cook
like,
one or two things,
the Olori lab.
let's try.
I'll let you know.
Then
I'll
we'll
try
now go
it.
on
I'll
Instagram
try it.
video like this.
I'll try it out and let you know
Let me know. Let me know.
how it goes.
Yes.
But lube, man, lube is everything. Lube reduces pain, increases pleasure. People think it's only for but I'm so wet.
I'm so
Typically,
wet,
yes,
wet.
but your wetness usually. I mean, if you're going, round after round,
Yeah.
you will start getting dry because
And you get sore.
your wetness is mostly water,
Mm-hmm.
and this would prevent soreness and
Not to mention
so.
the AC can affect it. Not to mention the time in your
ACs
cycle
make
as
things
well.
dry.
Yeah,
Time
they
in your
do.
cycle, hormones, everything.
Yeah.
Sometimes you're just
The worst
dehydrated
is
and you don't
have
have
you
enough
ever
water.
tried to have sex with a fan facing your bum bum? No,
But think about it. What is fan doing now? It's air now. It's just making
No,
it.
because it's sweaty. That's why I'm
drying.
just like when there's no light, I want to okay, let me use the rechargeable before I had to abort mission. It's not for me. No AC, no bueno. Thank
No
you.
AC.
If there's no AC, no bueno.
Oh right, I thought you were like no AC. I'm
no,
like,
if
can't you be
there's no AC, I
sweating?
can't. I can't. I don't like sweaty. It's not that deep. It's not that deep.
But see now that's the thing. When you read all those news, I would just say sweat.
The sweatiness. No, that one there was winter outside. It was not the one that
I beg
somebody's sweat was
they've not
entering your
seen Nigeria.
eyeballs.
I beg,
and
please go
all.
and bath first. We need to be nice and clean. Don't want to be smelling sweat up and
Oh
down.
my
But
god!
if it's your deal, do it.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, because some Nigerians still be.
Everybody likes what they like. So
Yeah.
I try not to yuck anybody's yum. But if you're
sure.
asking me yesterday, not Olori Coitus, also yesterday, about. I tell you my own, but
Yeah, no,
you generally would tell people like, look, I'm teaching you all these ones. Pick the one that
that works
works
for
best
you.
for you.
But for me, don't sweat on my eye, please. So yeah, well, tell us where we can find you on socials, how people can reach you.
You can find me on all socials, so Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok. I'm trying this
What's the
TikTok
TikTok?
thing, Sha.
Generational gap, Abby.
But there are older
Yeah,
people. Are
try.
no, please
No,
don't
but
say
they
generation
are.
gap. I'm
They
not that
are.
old.
They
I've been
are.
seeing like 60+ people,
No, they
grandparents
are.
on TikTok.
Even
So
me, my TikTok presence is weak. I like Instagram. Like I feel like getting used to using like a new app, and then
it's
and now right now, so TikTok is also favoring long videos. They want you to come and be
really,
doing story time of 10 minutes and so. So short form, they're trying to move away from short
really
form content.
interesting. But I
Yeah.
am at Olori Coitus on all socials. So Olori Olori, and then Coitus is Coitus. You
So
can
fellow
find me on that.
coitesers,
Oh God,
you
Lima,
know where to
please
find her.
now. My people are not going to be crazy about this coitusers.
Coitesers.
You
Yeah,
want to be
sorry,
called the coituser?
I mean coitesers. You know coitesers. Coitesser, I'm proud.
Okay.
Where can you find me? At Hausa Chocolate. Find the podcast at Spit or Swallow Pod. SOS Pod Official on Twitter. Spit or Swallow Pod on what was the last one? On
Hmm?
YouTube. And then yeah, find us on YouTube. Subscribe. Share. Don't be watching yeah, so we did because I went on Instagram and I held their neck. I said, "You people, if I sleep, I'll wake up. I want to see 1,000 subscribers."
Lovely.
But that's the thing about
Yeah.
sex content. You people will watch, they will share, they will hide.
But
Follow
how
is
is it? But
allow
how
us
is it doing
grow.
on? How's it doing on YouTube? Because I've considered YouTube, but again, that like,
Yeah,
oh my
I
god,
mean
another
it's
platform.
it's coming up. It's coming up. I've noticed it's definitely guest dependent and stuff. Like I said, the most watched episode I think that's on like 12K now is the one with that where I had the porn star and all. So yeah, so
Mm,
people definitely they pick and choose based on what
what
you're
they
talking
like.
about. But yeah, it's moving, and YouTube so far they don't seem to be
So,
holding our neck. Yeah, they've
so
not
maybe that's
yeah
another that's a
avenue
place
that
maybe one should.
you can put, and then there you can also regulate the kind of content that you want to put out there and stuff. So
Good to know.
yes,
Good to know.
thank you.
Thank
See you
you.
guys same time next week. Bye.
Bye.